That said, I would like to get started today with the privilege of being taught one last lesson by the professor himself, Monmouth College's own, Dick Johnston.
Go Dick! All right.
Nice job.
Yes, this is my own hair.
Nice job.
Let me just tell you a few things about myself before I get to my remarks. First of all, I'm very proud of Seth as a Monmouth College professor here. For a student to be able to get up here and speak in front of people like this, take time out of his busy schedule, I think says a lot about Seth and hopefully about Monmouth College students. Before I get to a few of my other remarks, I will tell you this. I teach economics here, I teach finance, investments. I also teach a course to seniors about the topic of liberty. I don't tell my students what the right views are supposed to be. I'm asking them to think about things, and I think Seth is a perfect example of people who are willing to think. I also tell my students in economics something I think it's important. It's very easy for us to say, you know, we've achieved by our own efforts. But the reality is, sometimes we do just get lucky. And I know this is very politically incorrect, but I don't care. Okay, there are people who will say all cultures are equal. They're not. I was lucky to be born in the United States. Okay. I did not choose to have two good parents. I got lucky. Okay, and as I make my remarks today, I'm lucky to live in a country that still has freedom of speech. Hopefully it's going to stay that way. Allow me to start off with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. And if you're listening to what I have to say today, Congressman Hare, this might be a little bit confusing for you. Thomas Jefferson's the guy who wrote that document called the Declaration of Independence. Which is different than the Constitution. That's the document you swore to uphold. Here is vintage Thomas Jefferson. I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. President Obama and the Democrat-controlled Congress, as well as President George W. Bush and the previous Republican-controlled Congress, obviously did not get this memo. Few people would deny that President Obama is a great speaker. However, if spending other people's money is the metric for winning a Nobel Prize, let me be the first to congratulate you, Mr. Obama, because there is a second Nobel coming in your future.
Yeah.
This president and the phrase audacity to hope go hand in hand. This president had the audacity to present a budget entitled, catch this, you cannot make this stuff up, a new era of responsibility. What's next? Suggesting that eating ice cream 3 times a day is the secret to a healthy diet? If this were advice on education, it would be akin to telling our students the way to earn high grades is to play lots of video games, avoid going to class, and smoke lots of crack. What does this quote-unquote responsible budget include? Spending that is paid for by enslaving future taxpayers. Yes, you did, President Obama. Maybe you had the audacity to hope that nobody would notice. We have a health care crisis, all right. The health of our republic is threatened by the obesity epidemic in government. Congressman Hare, we don't need to solve the donut crisis in Medicare Part D by borrowing more money. We need government to just start saying no to the donuts.
Good.
How bad is it? Most of you people look like you're at least my age. Let me paraphrase Alice Cooper. Welcome to our fiscal nightmare. For the students that are here, if you think that paying off your student loans is going to be a challenge, you should get bummed out by this. Your personal share of the liability our government has incurred on your behalf is 300,000 smackers. Imagine if you got a bill in the mail today that says, you owe us $300,000. That's what you face. Our local paper, the Daily Review Atlas, recently ran a column entitled, Unraveling the Mystery of Credit. Let me demystify credit for those who are critically thinking challenged. When you borrow to spend, the money has to get paid back unless the game plan is to stiff the lender. Students of history recognize that this is exactly what many governments have done. The aftermath has always been ugly. And unless the United States changes its ways, and soon, it will join the dustbin of countries that spent money they did not have. 19th century French economist Frédéric Bastiat nailed it when he said the following: government is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everybody else. Our politicians in Washington and in Springfield, Democrats and Republicans alike, have mastered the scam of having tomorrow's workers pay for yesterday's government, and it needs to stop.
That's right.